Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to this session on use of drones in agriculture. Today, we are looking to discuss and address how drone technology can be used for various drones can be used for various applications in the agricultural space, and what are the benefits that bring about. My name is Smit Shah. I am from the Drone Federation of India. With us, we have today Mr. Pradeep Paleli from Thanos, which is a drone spraying company. And we have Mr. Prem Kumar from Maruth Drones, which again builds survey and spraying drones. So I would request everyone to understand how this drone technology is being used and what are the general benefits around the same, and post any questions either on the chat box or at the end of the session whenever feel appropriate. I would like to invite Mr. Prem Kumar first to introduce and start his session, please. Prem.
And just a request to all the attendees, if you can please post your questions in Q&A segment, because in the chat it might then get deleted. So please put it in Q&A. Or you can raise your hand, click on raise hand to ask your questions directly from the speakers. Thank you. Mr. Prem, please carry on.
Thank you, Smith, and thank you, Shruti. Hello, everyone. My name is Prem. I represent Maruth Drones as a company. To start this session, just I wanted to play a small video and take you through the problem visually, so that I can take the presentations and everything. I'm sharing my screen and playing a small video.
विरजी 2 टिकट कैंसिल ट्रेन 2
Your attention. Passenger train from Bathinda to Bikaner has arrived on platform 2.
मैडम जी इस ट्रेन का हर दूसरा बंदा कैंसर का पेशेंट है आप किथे भी चेक कर लो और यही ट्रेन है जो बठिंडा से बीकानेर तक जाती है अब आप इनको ही देख लो
So the video which I've shared is a scenario where presently the majority of the farmers have been having direct access to these pesticides, so they've been suffering with the cancer and TB. So this is a the train called Cancer Train, which is going from the Punjab to Rajasthan for the cancer treatment, and majority of people who commute are the farmers. So this was the starting figure point where how could we remove the direct access to the pesticides to the farmer, so with the same hand which they eat and drink the food. So and just I'll share my screen and I'll take you through my presentation. So then what we understood is that a lot of people have started using drones. So in India, my other co-panelist Pradeep is also has been drone company and everything. So and the biggest problem what the industry has been facing is in the market and everything. The biggest problem is the general popular is a manual farmer. When he sprays 100 to 150 liters per acre, drones can spray 8 to 10 liters per acre is enough. But the problem is that scientifically the data has been not recorded in the country. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to come up with trying to understand do the scientific data of the crops, so that like entire community, the farmer community can adopt the drones and come up with the proper SOPs, uh, uh, SOPs to it. So majorly we have taken 5 different crops like the rice, cotton, soybean and groundnut and everything. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify a different stage in the crop cycle, 120 days to 150 days, what sort of a pest it comes and what sort of a formulations has to be there. The biggest problem the presently we have is we need ultra low formulations to use drones. So what we are trying to do under this scientific trials is for each pest which we occur for each crop, we're trying to come up with its formulations and come up with SOPs so that how easily we can able to tackle these pests and disease using the spraying drones. So majorly, these are the locations which we are using it for different crops in 4 different places. We are doing in the scientific research and we're also doing in the farmer research area. The whole thing is for each crop, drone has to fly at different height with a different nozzle and different kind of a speed. So what we are trying to intend to do is trying to come up with SOPs for crop wise, so that like at 15th day or 30th 20th day what height it has to fly and what sort of a nozzle it has to do and what sort of formulation should have it. And majorly we have the overall the present question mark for everybody is in 120 days and 150 days when to spray. Is it 15th day, 30th day, 40th day or 60th day, or where to spray exactly? Do I have to spray entire crop or do I have to spray exactly the way the pest is attacked? And how to spray this? The spray, is it like more of the 6 feet for all the crops, or for crop wise should I reduce the height and everything, or should I reduce the fluid, or should I reduce the pesticide dosage, is what we're trying to do the whole. So from last 1.5 years we've been working on these crops to standardize this so that entire the farmer community and the drone community can easily use this as a SOP and serve the end farmer as a drone as a thing. So majorly what we are trying to do with entire our solution is we're trying to come up with a optimal area which is in the acreage which is in the crop. We are spraying it and we're reducing the pest and we are reducing the time it takes. So overall, the spray is available to the farmer. To us. So these are the few glimpses of like what we're doing, the spraying in a few of the crops and everything to give you the overall outcome. What we're trying to do is drones have been useful for spraying is popularly known. So we're trying to, with this scientific data, we're trying to establish, yes, these are useful and come up with a more of a, what are the outcome like that. There's like manually farmer takes like drones can spray in 10 minutes 1 acre. So and we are also trying to test the soil after the spray and before the spray, and we're trying to see the impact of the flora fauna after the spraying, whether the birds, any effect in the birds or any flora, the beneficial flora getting affected and everything. So this all exercise we are doing it so that we are also scientific. Presently the missing part of the entire the space is the scientific data recording. That's where we've been doing it from last 1.5 year to help the drone community and to the farmers for the adoption purpose and everything. So this is the in a nutshell the work what we're doing it and everything. Uh, so this is a glance of the work what we're doing it with the agri as a spraying.
Thank you, Mr. Prem. Do you have, you want to elaborate more on your product and how it can also be used in, per se, how specifically it can be used? You want to elaborate a little more if, for the audience that is.
So I think Pradeep will elaborate the particular. So
All right, sure.
duplicate the same thing.
Okay,
so
sure.
Shruti, I will take up more on the drone aspects, the specifications,
great.
how the work happens and all.
Okay, please go ahead.
Right. So I can go, Shruti?
Yes, please,
Right.
Pradeep, you can go ahead.
Switching on my video as well. Prem, you can stop screen sharing perhaps.
Yeah, Prem has stopped screen share. If you can, yes. Right.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, very much.
Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Pradeep. I represent Thanos Technologies. We are a 4-year-old Hyderabad-based drone manufacturing and services company, focusing mainly on agriculture for the last 3.5 years. I'd like to start by thanking Prem for giving a brief introduction on the need for research and what is required in order to make this a pan-India approved spraying solution for the benefit of all farmers, wherever they are or whatever the size of the farmer be, marginal, small, medium, or large. With that background, I will mainly be touching upon the drone that we as a Indian company manufacture and how we've been using it for certain commercial pilots also. Now, a brief background about the need for research, again, just to expand a little bit more on what Mr. Prem has mentioned. As most of us in the audience know, drones have been there for at least last 3 to 4 years, even for spraying application in India. Across India, I would say every state has at least 2 to 3 drone operators, whether they have 1 drone or 10 drones. They've been doing a great job demonstrating what these drones can do. And the kind of publicity that drones have been given in either social media or normal television, radio as well, not to forget the print media. A lot of farmers already know, the common public already knows what drones are and what they do. Even in agricultural space, there's been good coverage about agriculture spraying drones. And a lot of farmers also know about this. Now, this is based on the fact that wherever we go for a demonstration, most farmers at least say they have heard about it, even if they've not seen about it. They've seen, now thanks to the mobile and data revolution, most people can access YouTube. Most people have smartphones. There are televisions and other media provisions as well, where people have at least seen drones online on what they can do in agriculture. With that background, I'll start off with a very brief highlight on why drones are required in agriculture spraying at all. Most of the farmers in the audience would identify with these issues that they see on a day in and day out basis. Now, these issues were actually highlighted to us by farmers. Now, we didn't go to the field with a product, but we actually were approached by quite a few urban farmers back in 2017, where these were briefly the problems that they were highlighting. The first one being labor shortage. Now, all of us know that labor has been migrating to cities over the last 1-2 decades, given that agricultural labor doesn't pay as much as urban labor, be it in a construction site or any other activities that are there. For that reason, labor has been migrating and there has been a growing shortage, and that will continue to be so. That's one major reason that was highlighted by farmers. And the other one was any manual activity when done by untrained labor leads to inefficiency. It could be in the form of wastage, or it could be in the form of overdosage or underdosage. Various side effects are there when untrained labor manually does it in a random fashion, and that too in a not so prescribed or suggested manner. Now, this is something, again, the second most important problem that was highlighted, the inefficiency in manual spraying and the wastage that results from it as well. Based on our high-level survey that we had done in 2017-18, most farmers spray more than the recommended dosage just because the pest can be countered in a much better fashion. And also because you end up spraying a lot more water, more than the dosage that is suggested. This leads to sometimes overdosage, sometimes underdosage, depending on the pattern in which the labor itself uses the knapsack sprayer or the Taiwan sprayer or the method of application that they currently use. Last but not the least, which was highlighted by Mr. Prem in the initial video that he played, the health hazards. This is mostly underreported across India. Nobody is much aware of this other than the farmers, I would say. But this is owing to the fact that most of the farmers of labor do not use any personal protective equipment, PPE as they call it in technical terms. They do not use it at all. And we have tried it firsthand to wear different kinds of PPE kits completely covering the body, face masks and everything. And we've understood firsthand why we cannot use that in a country like India, where we have tropical climates. In most parts, at least, where we have hot and humid conditions, it's not possible to wear personal protective equipment and do a good job when it comes to spraying. Now, combining all these, we realize that an automated solution, automated doesn't immediately mean drones, but an automated solution where farmer doesn't do the spraying, farmer or the labor doesn't do the spraying by himself or herself, is what is required in order to counter all these problems. Now, that's where we analyzed various technologies available, tractor-based and ground-based robots and drones, and we realized that for most of the stages of the crop, drones being not in contact on the field and being in the air, they provide the highest efficiency and the output. Yes, there are stages where a tractor-mounted sprayer or an autonomous ground-based robot will be also useful in the very early stages. But for most of the crop spraying cycle, drones have been proven, at least during our commercial pilots, to be the most effective. Now, just to put a few numbers in perspective, compared to manual and drone, drones can do 6 to 8 times as much work as manual, in some cases even more. Wherein manually, I would say an acre can be covered in 45 minutes to 1 hour. But here, we ourselves have done 6 to 8 acres at the maximum in a single hour, which has led to 25 to 30 acres in a single day. Now, in manual case, because there's a lot of overdosage or wastage of chemical, you end up spraying more. Here, you end up spraying less or as much as you have to. So you avoid unnecessary expenditure on chemicals. And not to mention the yield benefits that you get when you spray in an extremely uniform and efficient manner, that leads to increased income as well. Now, the last one, the hazardous nature of spraying manually, that is completely eliminated here because there is no human present inside the field at the time of spraying. Drone completely takes over the activity autonomously. Once you map the field and set a few parameters, that's it. Takes off by itself, sprays and comes back by itself. All the person or the pilot has to do is fill in the chemicals, monitor how the work is happening, and that's it. Of course, there's a few safety aspects that one needs to follow to ensure there are no humans or animals in the field before the start of spraying activity. But you basically eliminated the chemical hazards by removing the human element of the manual spraying aspect. Here I'd like to share a small video. Please let me know if the video is visible. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so this is a brief clipping of how drones spray in various crops. The first one being rice, this being cotton, and the next one being in mirchi, chili. Now, all these activity, all this video that you're seeing where the drone is spraying, there is no pilot actually controlling this drone. We just map the land, we set the height and speed. It even takes the turns all by itself. By the end of the turn, once it gets to the end of the length, let's say, by the time it gets to the edge of the field, it automatically turns 90 degrees and comes back and sprays all by itself. So that's what I mean by completely autonomous spraying. This is how most of the drone operators, including us, Mount Drones and others, have been doing it in commercial trials and commercial R&D trials and commercial pilots for the last couple of years. And here we have much more details mentioned in the sense of how drones are useful as a manufacturing company. So we are a manufacturer and service provider, and we specifically decided to build drones in India for the simple reason that there has to be after-sales service, be it any form of farm equipment that you take, tractors or harvesters, whether they're imported from outside or whether they're built here, there has to be after-sales service. Now we believe that a lot of people have been importing knockdown versions of drones, but yeah, as long as you're aware of what's inside and you're able to provide the end user the kind of after-sales service, the spares, parts, and repairs, that's what we are trying to address by designing and manufacturing our own drones in India, also in line with Make in India, where most of the components of our drones will shortly be indigenously made or made in India as well. Yeah, a few features that I wanted to mention is that this drone is completely designed and built in India. We even build our own batteries for this application. Now, currently, this drone of ours with 10 liters capacity has the among the highest flight times in India with more than 20 minutes of flight, where we can cover 3 to 3.5 acres in one battery. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is what we call a quadcopter. You can see the four arms and four fans or propellers, as we call it. But this comes in various configurations as well. Either hexacopter is there. Most people do hexacopters as well. And this comes in different capacities as well. What we provide as a standard is a 10-liter capacity, but we have a 5-liter model as well. And there are 15, 16 liters versions out there as well. And in addition to battery, there are gas-powered, gas as in petrol-powered drones as well. But this configuration and this size of 10 liters capacity is the most common or popular model, I would say, in India, owing to its ease of use, its size, the transportability. 10 liters has been more like a standard based on what we use, manufacture, sell, and operate, or the other companies use as well. This is how it actually looks like. This was more of a concept design, rendering, but this is how it actually looks like in the field. Now, this sprays at the rate of, like I said, 8 to 10 liters per acre, where conventionally people spray using knapsackers or Taiwan sprayers, anywhere between 100 to 150 liters per acre. Now here, the chemical quantity remains the same. That's the key aspect. A lot of people were worried about how you can cut down the volume from 100, 120 liters or 150 liters to 8 liters of water. The concentration will be higher, the plant will be damaged. But that's not the case based on all our experience. Reason being, we are maintaining the same amount of chemical over the same amount of area. Now, as long as you maintain that the same chemical is delivered to that piece of land as recommended by the Agri University or the chemical company, there are not going to be any issues. But this is something that we have understood and achieved based on a private endeavor with various chemical companies, national and international. But in order to get more credibility or for pan-India presence, that's where the role of Agri Universities comes into picture. We've been doing some work on that front, and Prem from our drones, as they mentioned, they are doing much more elaborate work over the last couple of seasons in the coming seasons. Once this kind of data comes out, be it drones that we manufacture or someone else manufactures, finally, there will be some kind of standardization that happens on the equipment front and the chemical dosage, nozzle, etc. front as well. Now, we've been sharing our learnings on what we've done on a private front with the universities also, and we are trying to speed it up. So we believe that sooner than later, in the next 1 to 2 years itself, you'll be able to see more and more drones in every state of India once this data is also approved. Just to put a few numbers in perspective, through the various commercial trials and pilots we've done, more than 1,300 acres, I would say, is what we've done, mainly on rice, cotton, mirchi, and so these are the main crops that we've worked on. Rice, cotton, mirchi, and maize is where we've done a lot of R&D trials. Commercially, we've done on cotton, mirchi, and rice being the majority of it. And locations-wise, there's more than 35 locations across South India where we've demonstrated and carried out commercial pilots, and R&D trials have been done in more than 10 locations. I will just give you a second to read this testimonial from a farmer in Warangal, a mirchi farmer of 2.5 acres. By definition, a marginal small farmer, where they've been using, he's been using mainly Taiwan sprayers and knapsack sprayers over the last few years. He realized the exact benefits that we expected were validated when we did the initial commercial pilots in his field and the surrounding fields in Warangal. In mirchi, there were, again, mirchi and cotton, there were unexpected benefits that were completely new to us as well, wherein they mentioned that in the manual method where humans brush against the grown trees and result in fruit dropping or flower dropping, because the drone is flying at certain height and it is not in contact, they even could save certain amount of yield that would have been otherwise lost because of the humans walking through at the time of spraying. Now, this farmer put the number at 1 to 2 quintals, which is a huge amount per acre, but similar numbers or similar feedback was received from other cotton and mirchi farmers as well. And in rice, that's a complete no-brainer in the sense that in rice, it's not even possible to spray using tractors or others because of the waterlogged nature and the density with which rice cropping is done, cropping pattern is there. So it makes complete sense for every rice farmer, and that's where we've been receiving most of the demand as well. Now, in terms of so I will close with a brief on what more spraying drones can do in the future. Now, what we currently have is something on the crop protection front. That is spraying pesticides. It could be insecticides, it could be fungicides, and in future even herbicides as well. But you can look at even seed dispersal. This is being tried in a few locations in India and is already successful in certain other Southeast Asian countries as well. Not necessarily in rice, but other crops as well, where broadcasting of seeds makes sense. Drones can straight away offer a benefit over there. Fertilizer spraying, that is DAP granules, can be sprayed. Micronutrients, which are completely soluble in water, those can already be sprayed because the current system that we have, it can spray any kind of liquids, completely soluble liquids. Going forwards, we'll be adding certain attachments so that not just liquids, but other kinds of particles also can be sprayed. That is already there. But what I mean by that these applications can come into field shortly is the financial viability of the whole operation also, and also to make sure that drones are not just for spraying chemicals, but to make it a multi-application platform where they can do multiple things by just swapping a few implements, the same way you do it on tractors. The implements that you put at the back, depending on that, they either do tilling, they either do weeding activity, they can either spray chemicals when you put a long bar. Same way, drones also will become multi-application platforms where we'll be doing a lot more in agri and non-agri applications as well. Some of the chemical companies that we work with on trials and pilots front, some of the biggest companies in the world, they have achieved major success in other countries and they are trying to do the same in India as well. And more than 100 farmers, we've already shown the results of how drone spraying makes sense. And wherever we go, once a farmer sees a drone in action, initially there's a lot of hesitation on whether this can work. It's only the progressive farmers who come forward and try it out. But the moment farmers see it, everyone is looking at immediately having these on their field because they see those initial problems that I highlighted. Each and every one of them connects with that. They know that that is an immediate problem and they see that this is an immediate solution, and they've all been asking for it, whichever the location across India, I would say. So yeah, briefly, do we have a few minutes to touch upon non-spraying or intelligence-related applications, Shruti? Just want to briefly touch upon that.
Yes, Pradeep, sure. If
Sure.
you can briefly explain that, please go ahead.
Right, right. So what I spoke about until now is what we call agri-automation. So drones in agriculture can be briefly divided into agri-automation and agri-intelligence. That's the high-level division, I would say, whatever drones can do in agri. Agri-automation is basically, as the name suggests, whatever physical activity that can be automated using drone. The same way it can be automated using a tractor or harvester and so on. That's what agri-automation is. More and more applications will be coming into that over the next few years. Agri-intelligence, as the name suggests, it's basically about giving certain inputs to the farmer or whoever manages the farm, so that with certain previously unavailable information, you can take better actions. Now, this is something that has been happening in the Western world and European world for quite some time. Drones or other forms of aerial imagery and satellite imagery, for example, that has also been used for quite some time. But drones offer certain unprecedented insights in the form of the resolution that they can give. That is, if you are a 1 acre farmer or 10 acres farmer, you can precisely see what is the issue in your field and accordingly take an action. Now, this is still an evolving field wherein certain data, a lot of amount of data is being gathered to make sure whatever predictions the data analysis gives is 100% or 95% of this accurate. But it's already at a stage where it can give considerable insights to the farmer to save costs or improve yields. It's being done in a major way in India as well. It's already being done by quite a few companies. And we also will be shortly starting this using our in-house designed drone platforms. But at a very high level, what this table represents is the key outputs that any imagery or camera drone can let you have, the kind of outputs that you can get using the drone. Contour maps are typically to understand how your field looks like, numerically speaking. So this is a typical example of a contour map, where numerically it shows what is the elevation of your field. Now, this is most relevant in real estate or green fields, but whenever someone starts a new field, this is the first step they do. They try to identify the entire level of the field, and they start planning the water flow structures, the water harvesting nature, which way the water has to go, how do we plant, all this happens. Now that's where we've already helped at least one or two agricultural NGOs to understand how this data can be useful. The other one is orthomosaic. Orthomosaic is basically how your field looks. Now, this is just an example of a 5-acre piece of land where the blue dot in the center is basically my car. The resolution that you get out of this is that I can see the side mirror of my car as well. That's the kind of resolution you get when you capture drone image, even better in some cases. So this one is numerical data. This one is visual data, as if you are seeing from the eye, a hawk eye view, bird's eye view, you could say. You can see how your field is instead of walking through your entire field. The third one is elevation map or visual band coloring, as we say. You can see the heights of it. Again, this is used for planning an entire field, the water flow structures. But what's more relevant to an already planted field and field that already has some crop is a vegetation map. Now, this is a simple map showing the vegetative and non-vegetative areas. But when you have a piece of land, an agricultural land, you'll be able to say where there has been seed germination, where there hasn't been seed germination, where there is certain water shortages or fertilizer shortages, based on which you'll be taking actions. Like I said, depending on the kind of camera you have on board, you'll be able to understand what kind of issue it is. Accordingly, take an action over that. And then there are the numerical numerical calculations in terms of dimensions of your field, the area of your plot, which could be used for various government-related applications, be it filing for even certain kinds of insurance-related applications, which is again helped by drones, wherein you can have pre and post imagery. When you have natural calamities like floods or drought, insurance companies can simply see how it was before, how it is later on. They can validate the data. And now this is, I believe, something that has already been a part of Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, where agricultural mapping is being done by drones, and certain solutions are being created out of that for the benefit of all farmers. Yeah, with that, I'd like to close my talk on what drones can do in agriculture. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. It was a very informative session and the presentation. And thank you to Prem also, especially for highlighting that the video in the beginning, wherein it really showed that how drones can really help us with the health hazards which otherwise pesticides can do in agriculture and spraying and all. So thank you so much for that as well. We have few questions. Arfa, would you please read out the questions?
Yes. Anil is asking, is the license required for flying drones, and how do we get it?
So, yeah, Prem, you can add your inputs as well. But yeah, briefly, all drones need some kind of permissions. Now, mainly this is because of the fact that this is an aerial piece of equipment, which is unregulated aerially. If it is on road, obviously someone can stop and inquire. But if it is in the air, it could be a bit unrestricted unless you have certain anti-drone technology. Now, for this reason, there is some kind of regulations, identification of drone, certification of drone that is required as per the central government's department for DGCA. Now, this is currently happening as we speak. Quite a few drones have already been certified, and more drones are in pipeline. But yeah, to briefly answer your question, agricultural spraying or any other kind of spraying drones need some kind of license going forward. But right now, it's all in commercial pilot stage, where quite a bit of work is happening across India. But yeah, drones are being certified, like I said, our drones as well. And permits also be shortly issued for drone operators to do large scale activities. Prem, you can add your 2 cents on this.
Yes, at present for the research purpose, we are taking exemptions from the DGCA through the help of TFI and everything. So we have been working with the two universities. One is ICRISAT for the diagnosis purpose and for the standardization for spraying with Agriculture University in Telangana. So we have been going through the exemptions for the 6 months exemptions, and we're doing it. So, but when the farmer field and everything, ideally permissions has to be taken and with the local police and also. So, but at present we are working through exemptions, and so we have through exemptions we have been working with.
There's a question in chat box. Jayesh is asking what would be the drone price? Mr.
So
Prem,
I can tell you because there are multiple prices in the market, I could say. So one is manual, semi-autonomous, and autonomous. So majorly people come with a very fancy price like 3.5 lakhs, 4 lakhs prices, which are semi-autonomous, and and people who have a fully autonomous, and people who have with the all the obstacle avoidance and everything, they've been going for 6.5 lakhs to 7 lakhs kind of a range. And it also depends on a lot of hardware. There are parameters like flight control, batteries like lithium ion, lithium polymer. So a lot of the hardware, like how we have the options for mobile phones, like with the hardware and with the air, like that we have in the market, like from the manual semi-autonomous to autonomous kind of drones. So which can vary from it's coming from 4 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs kind of a range at present in the market.
Yeah, sorry, I had an internet outage and had to drop off. Okay, what was the question?
what is the price of the drone currently?
Achha, yeah, so I had a chance to catch what Prem said. Yeah, it's accurate. It's in the range of 4.5 to 7. And yeah, it depends on the size again. Like I said, there are 5 liters to 15, 16 liters drones also. Some people even talk about 20-liter drones, which are more expensive, more than 10 lakhs, I would say. But the most common or popular, useful drones rather, are the 10 liters drones and then 16 liters drones. And for smaller farmers, I would say even to cater to smaller areas, even 5-6 liter drone might make sense. But the 10-liter one, broadly, it sits in the 4.5 to 7 lakh band, depending on how many batteries you need, etc. 5 liters could be cheaper and 15 liters could be more expensive.
Is another question? Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get that last question. Was there a question?
No.
There is no
No.
question.
No question.
Pradeep ji and Prem ji, do you want to make any closing statement for farmers?
Yes. So I strongly suggest farmers not to purchase the drones directly than purchasing through if you have a like, because a lot of people farmers have brought the drones and they're unable to handle after 3 months or 4 months, and they've been saying that the drones are have this problem and that problem. So that's why we've been generally suggesting whenever farmer comes says I want to purchase a drone, we ask someone who has like at least a ITI or diploma or the engineer kind of a thing to suggest him, so that we can train him so that he could helpful for him. Because the drones need certain calibrations and they have to change that nozzles or certain things, small things, which what happens is if someone who is trained, he can handle them well, so that they can get the drone for 2 years. Otherwise they in shorter term, in 3 months and 4 months, they can lose the drone, they can crash the drone, and they can say drone has certain problems and everything. So that's why we generally whenever someone says I want to purchase a drone, first we wanted to understand, so what is the purpose, and is it really directly he needs, or we need to train someone so that he can help with farmer directly, is what we're seeing. So definitely the drones are useful, and they've been if we have follow the certain SOPs and certain guidelines, definitely. Because I see is by next 1 year you'll see a drones everywhere in different crops and different regions and everything. So definitely, I see the lot of like as a regulation has been evolving, the lot of SOPs and lot of adoptions and lot of hardware adoptions are also evolving in the hardware. That's what I want to say.
Right. Yeah. So I think Prem did touch upon few relevant points wherein we also, as a manufacturer and so we keep getting quite a few inquiries from both small and large farmers. Small farmers, we straight away discourage from buying because we see that if someone wants to use it for themselves, it doesn't make any sense at all. There's a lot of fancy around drones, but that is good as long as it is in the hobby circles of a fun. But for serious applications, you need to be serious about the money you are investing and the ROI as well. So we mainly entertain farmers when they see that they have a overall plan to actually provide service to the neighboring farmers as well. These are farmers who own tractors, harvesters, and are into this activity of actually providing services using farm equipment. So those are the kind of farmers we do entertain, saying that yes, this makes sense. But we do have a pretty detailed chat. We don't just randomly sell or trade knockdown versions, but we do understand why a farmer needs, what size field does he have, does he actually need to buy one. If we realize that he doesn't need to buy, we immediately suggest that you can as well take a service from a drone operator at so and so X rupees per acre, which makes more sense to him. But otherwise, other options that we usually suggest is if a group of farmers, something like an FPO or a farmer collective comes together, it makes more sense where they can use the drone among themselves, and also they can rent it out for other farmers or in the neighboring areas. Depending on how big these FPOs are, they can simply buy and have it as a custom hiring equipment as well. Custom hiring centers are this, again, new model where private entities are setting them up and government entities are setting them up as well, where you can take them on rent. So going forward, you have custom hiring centers in every nook and corner of the country where you will be able to pay X rupees per acre or X rupees per day. The same way you hire tractors, you'll be able to hire drones as well. And like I said, drones, do not look at it as a fancy aspect, but as an extremely useful, productive element as part of your farm equipment. And our details are shared with both Kisan and DFI. You can feel free to reach out to us if either you want to buy the drones or you want to take it as a service. We'll be able to point you in the right direction and share more information on what drones can do in agriculture.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
There's a direct question, Pradeep and Prem.
Yeah.
So would like to ask a question. Please
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. This side Vinay from Ranchi, Jharkhand. Actually, I wanted to know that what kind of
Your audio is breaking up.
is purpose only the crop growth. How to monitor the crop?
We could not hear your question. Can you please repeat your question again?
Yeah, actually, to know that what kind of drone is required for monitoring the crop growth. Say, for example, I wanted to use the drone for monitoring the growth of vegetables and all. In a small area like 2 acre of land. So, is there any specific category over there?
When you say growth, there are multiple aspects to it. Growth itself might mean, are you talking about the height and yield, or are you looking at identifying any issues? But all this can be basically identified by a camera drone. Now, again, it depends on what camera you have. Like I was talking about on the agri-intelligence front, a simple camera can show you how much part of your field is filled up with crop, which will basically show you whether there are vegetative and non-vegetative parts, based on which you can physically then go and inspect whether you need to do something. And then there is a different kind of camera called multispectral camera, where it will show you upon mapping, it will show you what kind of issue is that. I mean, you'll basically get data, but unless you can interpret that data that you get, usually agri-scientists, agri-experts can understand that. But there are certain online platforms where you can plug in this data, you get reports, but you need to be able to understand what kind of issue, what kind of data that you can analyze to see whether it is a water shortage or whether it is pest incidents, based on which immediately you can go for a pesticide spray. Those kind of insights can be gathered, but that will be on a different kind of camera, multispectral camera specifically.
So
just understand how
Okay.
I can give a small analogy. Like when we go to a doctor, when we have any of the problem, so first doctor asks a smaller scan, then he asks us MRI scan, CT scans, and everything. Like in the crop, what happens is first you can do the basic imagery based on the pests and disease. There is a lot of other sensors we need to use. So as such, to the farmer level, at present the diagnosis is not available. The diagnosis at present we are doing it for the B2B level or the like companies level or to the government's level. The diagnosis is till the farmer level is yet to come, because a lot of standardization on the algorithms and a lot of the technology also has to evolve a lot. So that's why at present diagnosis we are doing it for the companies to understand their yield or understand the where exactly the height and everything. So the present research what we are doing is also is with ICRISAT is also is to evolve and create the SOPs for standardizing all these major pests and diseases. So at present, the farmer level, the diagnosis part is still, if you have a larger area, like more than 10 acres or 20 acres, then we suggest diagnosis, which is affordable for the end farmer level.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Vinay? He's unmuted. Yeah, Arfa, any other questions? Arfa, Shruti?
What is the reach of the spray? Someone is asking.
Reach of the spray.
Yeah.
What
Acha. So
span or reach of the spray or sprinkler? That's
spray
all.
bed. Right. So see, these depend on what drone configuration you have. So the example that I've shown in the case of our drone, the propellers, the spray nozzles were below the propeller, if you can recall. But there are drones out there where there will be a horizontal boom on the drone, and drones will be placed horizontally on that axis. On either of these cases, I would say whatever the drone is or the nozzle placement is, obviously there will be some standardization coming out wherein everybody will be following just 1 or 2 methods rather than 5 or 10 methods. But at this stage, I would say more or less everyone has similar numbers, not a wide range, but a briefly narrow range of 3 to 4 meters. Whichever way these spray nozzles are placed, usually at the minimum you get 3 meters, and at the maximum 4 to 5 meters of spray width is also possible. Now this is again subject to the height at which the drone flies. If you are at 5 feet, the spray width is different. 10 feet, the spray width is different, because the nozzles are basically in a they have an angle of 110 degrees or 80 degrees, whichever nozzle, depending on the nozzle being used. Based on that, as you go even higher and higher, the base increases and the spray width increases accordingly. But it doesn't mean that anybody can spray from any height. There are certain standardizations coming across as well, wherein we as a company suggest and operate ourselves as well at a height of 5 feet, typically 4 to 6 feet being the broad range, and in still weather conditions, maximum 8 to 10 feet, because there's no wind. Because there are weather conditions where if you go beyond certain wind speed, because you are spraying from certain height, the chemical can get drifted or it can fall in an area where you don't want it to fall. That's why there is a peak on how high you can go as well. And there is a peak on what wind speed you can operate it to. We suggest not more than 10 kilometers per hour wind speeds, but preferably less than 5 kilometers per hour. So all these things will be slowly standardized. Both private and public university endeavors are in play. So this will be standardized. But typically, those will be the numbers and operating conditions, I would say.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from the attendees? No, I think we are done with the questions. Thank you, Prem and Pradeep. Thank you for the presentation. And thank you, Smith and Deep, also from the Federation for organizing these sessions on Kisan app, which were very useful for our farming community. for all the farmers and the attendees who are watching us even from other sources, if you could download the Kisan app, then you can connect with these companies, you can see their products on display, and you can directly connect with them also. Smith, any closing statements for the day?
Sure.
Anything you would like to add?
What I would like to tell everyone is that this technology is something that can literally, bring in efficiency in our farming process, which is usually, driven by a lot of hard work. So I would encourage everyone that everyone should adopt this technology, should do trials and tests with all the young drone companies that we have. And if you look at our neighbors, we have so many people in China who have been using drones since quite some time now. I think about 60% of the spraying happens through drones. So if they can do it, we can do it. I would suggest everyone to adopt this technology as fast as possible and collaborate. So I'm looking forward to more such sessions. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you all of you for joining us today. Have the details of all the speakers of the day if you want to get in touch with them. Thank you.
Thank you.